right here in North America. Not in Egypt, not in Mesopotamia, not in some distant corner of the ancient world. There was once a city larger than London. Seriously. In 1250 AD, while London was struggling to house 50,000 people, a city was thriving in what is now Illinois, with a population that may have reached 20,000 or more. It had plazas, it had ceremonial monuments, it had a sophisticated agricultural system, a complex social hierarchy, and trade networks that stretched across the entire continent. And then, within a few generations, it was simply gone. No invasion, no volcanic eruption, no army at the gates, just silence. The question researchers have spent decades trying to answer is not whether this collapse happened. It clearly did. The question is why a city that successfully engineered its own environment, that fed and organized tens of thousands of people, would reach a point where every single one of those people decided to leave. That city was called Cahokia. And what modern archaeology is uncovering about its disappearance is more unsettling than anyone expected. Let me paint you the full picture, because most people have never heard of Cahokia, and that in itself is part of the mystery. Cahokia sat at the confluence of the Mississippi, Missouri, and Illinois rivers, right outside what is now St. Louis. The location was not accidental. The people who built this city understood something fundamental about geography and resource management. They chose a floodplain that was extraordinarily fertile, one of the most productive agricultural zones on the continent. At its peak, roughly between 1050 and 1200 AD, Cahokia was genuinely extraordinary. The centerpiece was Monk's Mound, a massive earthen pyramid with a base larger than the Great Pyramid of Giza. Not as tall, but bigger at the base. Think about that for a moment. This structure was built entirely by human hands, basket by basket, without metal tools, without the wheel, and without any writing system to coordinate the labor. Surrounding Monk's Mound were over 120 additional mounds arranged in precise alignments. Researchers have confirmed that some of these alignments track solar and lunar events with remarkable accuracy, suggesting a level of astronomical knowledge that complicates the simple story we usually tell about pre-Columbian North America. And because Cahokia left no written records, every single thing we know about it comes from what the ground gives back. That silence in the historical record is one of the most important facts in this entire story. We are not working from chronicles. We are working from soil samples, bone fragments, pollen deposits, and the remnants of what people left behind when they walked away. So, what do those remnants tell us? Here's where it gets interesting. For decades, the dominant theory about Cahokia's collapse centered on environmental degradation. The idea was straightforward. The city grew faster than its environment could sustain. Deforestation stripped the surrounding hillsides. Agricultural runoff destabilized the soil. The very floodplain that made Cahokia possible began flooding more aggressively and unpredictably. A 2024 analysis published in connection with ongoing research into Cahokia's sediment layers found evidence of a catastrophic Mississippi River flood event around 1150 AD, right in the middle of Cahokia's apparent peak. The flood deposits were thick, thick enough to suggest this was not a seasonal overflow, but something significantly larger. And here is what makes this finding particularly striking. Rather than triggering an immediate collapse, the flood appears to have been followed by a brief resurgence. Cahokia rebuilt. Population remained relatively stable for at least another century, which means the flood alone does not explain the abandonment. By 1300 AD, the population had begun declining sharply. By 1350, the city appears to have been completely empty. Now, some researchers point to a prolonged drought cycle that gripped the central continent during this period. Tree ring data from the region shows consistent dry periods that would have undermined crop yields year after year. Others argue the collapse was political. Cahokia's social structure showed signs of extreme hierarchy. Elite burials at the site reveal individuals interred with extraordinary wealth, while others appear to have been sacrificed nearby. Some researchers suggest this power disparity eventually fractured the social cohesion that kept the city functional. There is also evidence of a large wooden stockade wall built around the central precinct during the later period of Cahokia's occupation. Defensive walls are not typically constructed when a society feels secure. They are built when a society feels threatened, possibly from within as much from outside. And here is the twist that recent research has added to all of this. Isotope analysis of human remains at Cahokia has revealed that a significant portion of the population at the city's height were not originally from there. They were migrants, people who had traveled, in some cases from hundreds of miles away, to be part of whatever Cahokia represented. That tells us something important. Cahokia was not just a city. It was an idea, a center of gravity, something that drew people toward it because it promised something they could not find elsewhere. And if the city was held together as much by belief and social meaning as by agricultural output, then the question of collapse becomes far more complicated than drought or flood alone. When the idea loses its power, when the center stops feeling like a center, people do not need to be driven out. They simply leave. But here is what makes the Cahokia story even more disorienting. Roughly 8,000 miles away in Southeast Asia, a nearly identical scenario was unfolding on a far larger scale at almost exactly the same time. The city of Angkor, capital of the Khmer Empire in what is now Cambodia, was at its height one of the largest pre-industrial cities on Earth. Its population estimates vary widely, but some researchers suggest it may have housed between 750,000 and 1 million people at its peak. Like Cahokia, Angkor was an engineered city. Its entire existence depended on one of the most sophisticated hydraulic systems ever constructed in the ancient world. An intricate network of canals, reservoirs called bares, and moats that managed the monsoon cycle and distributed water across the region year-round. Like Cahokia, Angkor left a complex and still debated archaeological record. And like Cahokia,
Angkor was effectively abandoned by the mid-15th century. The 2026 Nova PBS documentary on lost civilizations brought renewed attention to LiDAR survey data, light detection and ranging technology, that has transformed our understanding of Angkor's final decades. The imaging revealed the full extent of the hydraulic network and, more critically, the points at which it failed.
Evidence suggests a prolonged drought cycle, consistent with broader climate disruption across Asia during the 14th and 15th centuries, placed the hydraulic system under increasing strain. When the rains returned, they came in violent bursts rather than predictable monsoon patterns. The infrastructure, designed for consistency, could not adapt quickly enough. Channels silted, reservoirs failed. The agricultural yields that sustained 1 million people began to falter. At the same time, the Khmer Empire faced mounting military pressure from the Ayutthaya kingdom to the west. In 1431, Angkor was sacked. The capital was relocated to the south. But here is what researchers are still debating. Was the sack the cause of the abandonment? Or was the city already emptying before the attack came? Some scholars argue the military defeat was a final blow to a system already collapsing from within. Others suggest the population had been retreating southward for decades, following trade routes and economic opportunities that had shifted away from the inland capital. Neither Cahokia nor Angkor has given us a clean answer, and that, honestly, is what makes both cases so compelling. What both cities share, and this is the detail I keep coming back to, is that the very infrastructure that made them great is precisely what made them fragile. Cahokia engineered the floodplain. Angkor engineered the monsoon. Both civilizations built systems of breathtaking sophistication, and both created dependencies so total, so deeply embedded in daily survival, that when those systems began to crack, there was no alternative to fall back on. The infrastructure was not a safety net, it was the floor. And when the floor gives way under a city of hundreds of thousands, there is no slow-motion collapse to document. There are just people, making rational decisions one household at a time, calculating the odds and choosing to leave. That is how a city of 1 million people becomes a jungle ruin. Not with a single dramatic event, with 10,000 quiet decisions. And now, here is the question I genuinely want you to sit with. Both Cahokia and Angkor demonstrated a level of urban sophistication that history has largely undervalued. Both collapsed, not because their people lacked ingenuity, but because the systems they built became too specialized, too optimized, too dependent on conditions staying exactly as they were. Sound familiar? Every modern city on Earth runs on infrastructure that assumes stability. Power grids, supply chains, water treatment systems. The more optimized a system becomes, the more brittle it gets. What Cahokia and Angkor may actually be telling us is not a story about the distant past. It may be a warning about the conditions under which any advanced civilization becomes suddenly, completely vulnerable. The real mystery here is not why they left.
The real mystery is whether we would recognize the signs if it started happening to us. If this investigation raised questions you want to dig deeper on, subscribe to OBSCURA Files. Every week, we open a new case file the history books closed too early. And drop your theory in the comments. Was it the environment, the politics, or something else entirely that emptied these cities? I read every response.